What is going on, you guys? Alex Chasen back here with a brand new video, and today I want to talk about my most surprising and disappointing teams so far this NBA season. I know it's early, but there definitely are some surprises, and there definitely are a few disappointments as well. In a future video, either being the next one or next week at some time, I will be talking about my most surprising and disappointing players, but today is strictly team based, and we're going to dive right into it, starting off with one of my most surprising NBA teams in just the 8, 9, 7 games played so far this year. It has to be the Brooklyn Nets. They are 4-4, around a 500 record. Their 4 wins right now, I didn't think they'd get 4 wins until, the end of November, maybe even Christmas time. I didn't think they were going to rack up 4 wins for a very long time. Christmas time might be a little bit of an exaggeration. More like, the end of November. I thought they weren't going to start great. But look at them now. 4 wins already. They're 4-4. And it's not really, the 4-4 record. It's the fact that they are the 3rd seed in the East right now. You look at the standings. It goes Cavs, Celtics, and the Brooklyn Nets. I know not every team has played an equal amount of games, so it's a little bit flaky on that standpoint, but they have 4 wins. They have been competitive, playing some good teams so far. They have beaten the Milwaukee Bucks, the Grizzlies twice, and then the Chicago Bulls. That win over the Milwaukee Bucks, that was a big win. It was a fully healthy, minus Middleton, of course, because he's out for an extended period of time. But Giannis and Dame were healthy. The rest of that Bucks team was healthy, and the Brooklyn Nets won 115-102. It wasn't even that competitive. And then they also beat the Memphis Grizzlies twice. If I'm a Grizzlies fan, I'd be disappointed in those losses. And I'll give them a little bit of leeway. They weren't fully healthy for either of those games. Specifically, I believe the second one, they were more depleted than the first one. One of the two, they were more injured than the first one. But Ja Morant was a constant in both of those games, and they still lost. That kind of points to maybe a lack of depth there in Memphis. But sticking with the Brooklyn Nets, they're just playing really good team basketball, and they have an emerging star in Cam Thomas, who's averaging 25 points per game, 3 assists, 3 rebounds, shooting the ball 42% from the field, 30% from 3. His splits aren't great, but he's putting up shots, getting 25 points. But one of the biggest surprises is Dennis Schroeder. You could look at it. He's always been a career bucket going back to Atlanta. I really liked him when he was really young in Atlanta. And then he, bounced around a little bit. He's always been a career bucket getter at that point guard position. But in Brooklyn, he's their best guard by far. And he's averaging 20 points per game, 7 assists, 3 rebounds. He's shooting the ball 50% from the field, almost 50% from 3. And he's played all 8 games. So is he going to continue his 50 and almost 50 percentages from the field? Probably not. I'm going to be honest, probably not. But right now they're riding his high. They're riding his great play. He's averaging 20 and 7 and 3. Dennis Schroeder is playing amazing. And then you have Cam Johnson playing well, DFS playing solid. Nick Claxton has been surprisingly coming off the bench. They've been starting Ben Simmons, who recently got hurt. He's day-to-day. So now they've been starting Claxton recently in their last game. But he's playing all right. He's giving them around 10 and 7, a couple assists a night. He's playing solid as well. Everyone's kind of just playing their role in Brooklyn, and they're buying in. Will it keep up? Probably not. Most likely we'll see. They want a good pick. They want Cooper Flagg, or at least a high lottery pick. They're not going to want to be this good for this long. They're eventually probably going to trade off some pieces, especially if Dennis Schroeder continues to play great. They can probably get some good value back for him. But I don't want to stick with the Nets for too long, but they're definitely a surprise early in this season. Continuing, another team that's a surprise, and it's not as strong of a surprise as the Nets, but it is the Cleveland Cavaliers. They are 8-0. I didn't think they'd start off this hot after so many question marks, and there's a part of me that wants to make a separate video on the Cavs, but I'll dive into it a little bit right now. What was the future of Donovan Mitchell this offseason? Up in the air. What was the future? But he signed the extension, so obviously he wants to be here long term. And then what was the future of Darius Garland? There was trade rumors all summer that Garland might be moved to a different team because the Mitchell and Garland grouping there wasn't really working. That has all been squashed. And then same down low in the paint. The Jarrett Allen, Evan Mobley duo, was that going to work? All of that has been squashed, and they have 4 all-stars in their starting 5. And one of the greatest aspects of this season's Cavs team is they're not relying on Donovan Mitchell to be the guy to close games or be the guy every single night. He's only averaging 23 points per game. Darius Garland, 20 points per game. Evan Mobley, 17 points per game. Jarrett Allen, 15 points per game. Karis LeVert, 12 points per game. It's a well-balanced attack from around that offense, and it's great to see. Kenny Atkinson is running great rotations with Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland and Mobley and Allen throughout the game, alternating them together, having at least one of them and a big together. They look great on the court. Kenny Atkinson is doing awesome. I think he has to get a lot of the credit here because it's basically the same exact team. Coaching's different though, so I have to give a lot of credit to Kenny Atkinson for having them buy in, also running great rotations that has led to them the 8-0 start of the season and also the #1 seed in the East as of right now. My third and final biggest surprise so far this season has to be the Golden State Warriors. I did not see a start like this coming. 6-1, third seed in the West. They look better than last year by a mile. Their offense looks awesome. Their defense also looks amazing. I didn't see this coming. I'm going to be completely honest. Like, this one takes me more back and shocks me more than the other two because the Brooklyn Nets are 4-4. I mean, they're, a 4-4 record, but they're in the East, so they're the third seed. But the Golden State Warriors are 6-1, playing amazing basketball. Now, granted, I am going to be honest. They have beaten teams like the Blazers, the Jazz, the Pelicans twice, the Rockets, and the Wizards. All of those teams, except the Rockets, are under 500. So, if you want to put a little bit of a grain of salt, a little bit of a sprinkle, I'm not going to argue with that. But they're still playing winning basketball. And it's not even led by Stephen Curry. Of course, it's led by Stephen Curry, but points per game wise, you have Buddy Hield playing the best basketball of his entire career, averaging 22 points per game, 4.5 rebounds, 2.5 assists, shooting 50% from the field and 50% from three on 9.5 attempts a night. 9.5 attempts. He's shooting 50% from three. And this is a 8-game sample size, and he's only started one game. This man is going to be 6th man of the year if he keeps these numbers up, which is insane to me. It's insane. Stephen Curry is averaging just shy of 20 points per game. It's Steph Curry. He's shooting the ball 42% from the field, 41% from three. You'd like to see that overall shooting percentage a bit higher, but that 3 percentage is Steph Curry-esque. I don't really have much to say for the Warriors. They are just over-exceeding all my expectations for them. They're playing great. And it's funny, you put a shooter like a Klay Thompson type of guy, that being Buddy Hield, around Steph Curry, and it just explodes his game and opens his game up to a level we have never seen before. The Warriors have to be my third surprise for today. So now let's dive into my biggest disappointment so far this season. The Milwaukee Bucks has to be the first one we talk about, and I actually just made a video on them, so I'm not going to dive too deep into it. I'll put the link up top if you want my whole 12, 13, 14 minute actual take on the situation. But in summary, they look old, they look slow. Doc Rivers is not a good coach. I don't know if he really ever was. I don't know. I'm at the point now, and I'm a Celtics fan. Was he ever a good coach, or was he just blessed with Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, and Rajon Rondo, 4 guys with a really grit and grind attitude that helped Doc Rivers look really, really good? I'm at the point now where there might be actual conversations about that because he hasn't won anything meaningful since he hasn't done it. But they just look old, they look slow. Giannis and Dame have been really, really good for the most part. They're doing all they can to try to scrape wins, but they just can't do it alone. I know they're missing Chris Middleton, but he's been on and off with injuries the last couple of years. If he was there, I don't really think he moves the needle as much as he would have, 4 or 5 years ago. I want to be honest. I just don't really think that's his game anymore. But the lack of depth and the lack of true movements this offseason in free agency just shows. I mean, Gary Trent Jr. was supposed to be a big spark for this team. He's averaging 8 points per game, and that's not even the problem. 8 points is 8 points, that's solid, but he's shooting the ball atrocious. Under 30% from the field and under 25% from three. Put me out there, I'll give you that production. You know what I mean? It's we need more production from these bench guys in Milwaukee because Giannis and Dame are both averaging 31 points and 27 points respectively. They're doing their jobs points per game wise. And then, of course, Giannis is just playing nasty. 12 rebounds, 6.5 assists. there's not much more he can do. So like I said, I did just make a video on this topic with the Milwaukee Bucks. So I'm going to move on. Going to my next biggest disappointment, the Indiana Pacers. And they're not necessarily terrible. They're the 7th seed. They're 3-4, just under 500. But I really expected them to be 6-1 right now, 5-2. I had much higher expectations for the Indiana Pacers. And it really just stems from one issue. Tyrese Halliburton is playing some of the worst basketball I have ever seen from a superstar in the NBA. He's giving you 15 points, 8 assists, 4.5 rebounds, but he is shooting the ball atrocious. Under 40% from the field and 24% from three, and he's slinging them. He's taken 8.5 attempts per game, and he's shooting 24%. Something needs to change for Tyrese Halliburton for the Pacers to be truly that threat I think they can be in the East. I know it's early, but he's in a slump at a bad time. It's the start of the year. You're trying to, make your name known in the league. You're trying to, set your mark for where things are going to play out going into the season. It's a bad time to be struggling. Mid-season is a good time to struggle. Things are kind of set. It's before the playoffs start to ramp up, those types of things. But beginning of the season, you see like the Bucks, they're 1-6. Can they recover from that? Time will tell. Luckily for the Pacers, they're 3-4, but they really got to ramp it up with Tyrese Halliburton. He's their biggest issue right now. Everyone else is playing relatively well. Miles Turner has been playing amazing. Mathurin has been playing amazing now that he's back and healthy. Pascal was doing his thing, but Tyrese Halliburton looks terrible. And for that, they're one of my biggest disappointments. Like I said, I thought they would be that 3 seed, that 2 seed in the East right now, and they're just not there. They're the 7th seed. Again, they're just a game back because the Brooklyn Nets are 4-4. They're the 3 seed. It's early. It's nothing to worry about. I'm just disappointed because I thought they'd be much better with this squad, and they're just not right now. Going to my third disappointment, it has to be the New Orleans Pelicans. Similar concept, it's just the West is so deep. The Pelicans are 3-5, and they're the 14th seed in the West. Zion has not looked as dominant as in the past. He's also already injured a little bit. And he's only day-to-day, so it's nothing serious, but it's still the premise of, is this more to come for Zion Williamson this season? He finally had a healthy year last year, one of 2 fully healthy years he's had in his career, but the injury bug has started with him. He's missed a few games. DeJounte Murray is already out with a broken, I want to say thumb. It's something with his hand, his thumb. I can't think of it right this second. And, he's only played literally, 1 game for the Pelicans, so they don't even have their full squad together. And then their center situation is going to continue to piss me off. Yves Missi and Daniel Tice. That's not an answer, New Orleans, and they're 3-5. So they're going to have to figure things out. Zion has to be healthy. Like I said, he's day-to-day, so he'll be back soon. DeJounte Murray's got to come back sooner than later. I know he has a few more weeks on his timetable. But yeah, I'm just disappointed in the New Orleans Pelicans. I thought, even with the absence of DeJounte Murray to start off the season pretty much, and the lack of true center ability on this team, I thought Zion, B.I., CJ would hold their own. I thought they'd do a little bit better. I know the West is tight, so the 14th seed isn't necessarily terrible, especially when you're 3-5, but still, I expected them to be a bit better than where they are right now. On a positive note, Jordan Hawkins has looked amazing. In 7 games, he's averaging around 17.5 points per game. Huge plus for a team like New Orleans that has been looking for a big spark guy off their bench. He's been starting as of late a few times, but either way, good thing for when DeJounte Murray does come back, they can look to Jordan Hawkins to be that guy off the bench. The final team I want to talk about is the 76ers, and I put an asterisk here, but the exact reason they went out and got a good bench this offseason was because they knew Embiid, they knew Paul George were going to miss games, and they're already going through it to start the year. Paul George just played his first game of the season on Monday. Didn't look amazing, but it's just 1 game. Embiid is still out, plus he just got suspended for 3 games for pushing a journalist. Either way, they went out this offseason to get a better bench because they knew these guys were going to miss games, and they're still 1-5, the 14th seed in the East. I don't want to dive too deep into it because there is an asterisk there. Paul George and Embiid have been out, so it's not the true potential of this team. But when you go out, but they still have Tyrese Maxey. I mean, that's a star in this league. He's averaging 30 points per game. But when you go out to get a better, deeper bench, and you still come back and you're not grabbing enough wins in the absence of Embiid and Paul George, that doesn't look great because it's going to be a theme this year. Embiid and Paul George are going to miss games, and they've already started to do so to start this season. Again, there's an asterisk there because they're not healthy, but still, this was a known issue that was going to come up this year. So with that said, that is all I have for you guys today, and those are my most surprising and disappointing teams so far this season. Let me know down in the comments below what you're thinking so far this year. I'll see y'all very soon, and like always, peace out.